I don't know about you, but... Deleting Uber Lilith in just under 4 seconds, I think is pretty damn impressive for little old Blizzard. Welcome to perfected level 100 Tal Rasha's ring, Ice Spikes. Welcome then, my fellow sorcerers, to the wonderful world of cold, the fantastic fun of the freeze, the third cool sounding alliteration based sentence. This was good before, it was great before, but that was when I had an imperfect version, not at level 100, and without our brand new shiny ring. Rashas! So now we have arrived at the completed ultimate form of Season 2 Ice Spikes. Well, prepare yourself for something magical. It's all about lucky hit this time, and if you know anything about Ice Spikes, that might surprise you, given the Ice Spikes themselves can't trigger lucky hits. But I have managed to leverage a way to make lucky hits the #1 both source of damage and damage increase to this setup by layering a couple potent synergies that I really can't wait to share with you. I think honestly it is the secret that unlocks true endgame Ice Spikes. You will regularly see explosive hits of 1.5 million popping off all over the place, while hundreds of Ice Spikes a second chain detonate for near 500,000 damage each, all the while the Blizzard itself is just melting away health with a unique little vampiric power setup that gives us infinite mana. You can layer these everywhere, and everywhere you do, everything will die. You get to just safely place a single Blizzard on every group of enemies from the other side of the room and watch them immediately detonate in frost. And that makes it super safe. You get to preemptively layer it on top of where bosses will spawn so that when they rise up, they immediately sit back down. It does feel like a little bit of a cheat code that you can just cover everything in Blizzards and not really think any further than that and get on with your merry way. And all of this ease of use, power, survivability, clear speed isn't actually weaker than ball lightning. On a base level, it almost keeps up, and when you've got about 8+ Blizzards stacked on top of each other, it actually out-damages Ball Lightning, which is a little bit ridiculous to think about. Yes, Ball Lightning gets 0 to 100 near instantly, but the fact that we have another build that can reach those dizzying heights in an entirely different and equally awesome playstyle is amazing to me, and I cannot recommend Ice Spikes enough if you are looking for something A little bit different to try, or B, just really like ice magic, which would be fair enough because it is very cool. I'm sorry, okay. Look, I just think the fact that you can kill the boss training dummy with just 3 Blizzards and then AFKing and letting them play out is really impressive, and outside of rogues glitching out and barbarians doing whatever the hell Hunter is doing that much damage in only 3 button presses is just something that can't happen otherwise. So I think that's a real achievement and a real statement on just how worthwhile this build actually is to play. So without further ado then, let's talk peak ice shards and how that all comes together for your delectation. So we be beginning with the skill tree, you see. And no, I'm not going to explain why, today we got a little bit of a pirate start to this. It's just fun sometimes. 2 points in to Firebolt to get to your cause and to give us our first enchantment. Yes, burning extra crit damage synergy is just too big of a damage increase to ignore with Ice Spikes. Also, the competition for our enchantment slots is really sort of non-existent in this build. There isn't that many good, compelling options, so giving one to somewhat the boring but safe choice is a lot more palatable here. Then we go over to our cause, where we just want some double passives, more mana from Devastation, and more damage from Dominance. This takes us to defensives, where we grab ourselves Flame Shield, take it up to more movement speed and mana reduction for more Blizzard spamming, get your Teleport with the usual Shimmering for constant damage reduction, grab yourself Ice Armor with the mana regen while it's on, fill out Glass Cannon, we are more than able to live, and this just gives us a huge free increase. Blizzard superly is safe. Did I just say superly is safe? Anyway, Elemental Attunement 1 point, just so the effect can happen. Now, here is technically where our second enchantment slot comes from. If you are doing easy content stuff that is a breeze, you're not worried about any kind of danger, then use the Teleport enchant and double speed yourself along, and that works really nicely. Double Raiment pulls, more thunder damage sources for our new Tal Rasha ring. It works a treat, and it's always fun when a build gets to use the Teleport enchant, as it really does speed things up. Then we go to Conjuration, where we grab Lightning Spear and take it down to Invoked, so this turns it into a stun everyone on screen button. Now, technically speaking, the last slot on your bars could be sort of whatever you want. You can take these 3 points out of Lightning Spear, give it to Ice Blades, give it to Frost Nova, just don't have a 6 button on your bar and put 3 points somewhere else. It's totally up to you. It's the least important thing we're doing, but hey, it's an extra source of shock damage for Tal Rashas if you're not teleporting on top of people to trigger it, so that's nice too, and the constant stunning is good for your livability. Grab your extra lucky hit, as we want all the lucky hit we can get in this, and then the double defensives of Mana Shield and Protection to keep us, well, not dead. To Mastery, then, where we get the Blizzard that it's all about. Get all 5 ranks in, because although most of our damage comes from a certain unique and the Ice Spikes themselves, the pure Blizzard dottage is actually still really healthy amounts of damage, and definitely worth having, especially when we don't have anywhere better to put the points. Get your Enhanced, and then finally Mages, so we get a 4-second longer one. Most of the time you will be casting it above 50 mana anyway. Then get your Devouring Blaze, one of the reasons we've got the Firebolt enchantment, multiply up our crit damage, and enjoy the massive Ice Spike hits. Over to our ultimates, where we get the usual quad passives of I'm doing a cold frost damage based build. All of it just piles in the extra damage to various types of enemies in various scenarios, and it works wonders. And then the little bit of extra mana we'll cut in from Frigid Breeze is nice too. We have so much lucky hits that this happens fairly often, even though our lucky hits are coming from dots, which spread them out a bit. It's nice to have. Then get Deep Freeze, just so we have it to press to fill out our bars. We don't really need Prime or Supreme, though you can if you want. You can take the points out of the extras on your defensives. You can take 2 points out of Devastation if you like having access to these. It's not the worst call, because you can double Flame Shield, double Teleport back to back for more mana with Bolts, but yeah, this is a very flexible tree when it comes to Blizzard. Lastly, grab Avalanche, your key passive, definitely the best way here. Enemies just aren't living until the point that they're frozen, so Shatter doesn't do a huge amount, and Avalanche is much better against bosses. The extra damage is nice, but getting an extra free Blizzard to stack them faster and more is really, really good. So, this is your default normal skill tree. If you are doing difficult content, if you are pushing tier 90 plus, if you are in danger of any kind of death, well then what you want to do is get rid of the teleport enchantment and then get rid of the 2 extras of flame shield and get rid of enhanced ice armor. Now, you can take these 3 points from anywhere else that you want, but this is where I take them from. Then we want to go over and get frozen orb, enhanced, and then destructive for a few little bits of mana top-ups, and then that becomes our second enchantment slot. This is useful, it's a little bit more damage, it's more mana regen, and it starts the chilling and freezing process, which keeps you alive, because a frozen chilled enemy isn't going to kill you a lot sooner, and generally just helps you out a lot more in more challenging dungeons, where you don't want to be constantly teleporting your face onto enemies that might one-shot you if you're not prepared, or you don't have your full stacks of disobedience. So that's just something to be aware of, depending on what's happening. For now, though, I will leave it in the kind of default your level content setup. Before we get to how to pilot this, I want to go through your stats, your aspects, your uniques, etc. first, because it's kind of required for some context. With that in mind then, we begin with a wand, specifically get a wand for the lucky hit chance, it is important to have as much of it as possible, and then Frozen Tundra. Your ice spikes having a 50% increased explosion radius is essentially mandatory for ice spikes. You want everyone in this blizzard circle to get hit, and most people will get hit by most spikes thanks to Frozen Tundra, and that is a huge increase to your DPS, especially against bosses. Then we get the duo of Conceited, just more pure damage while we have a barrier, and Stormswell, more vulnerable damage, both multiplicative while we have a barrier. We have a barrier all the time from protection and just, you know, straight up gain barrier, so these together is a massive damage increase. Vulnerable damage is especially good in this build as we do have a lot of vulnerable damage. Then the most important aspect, Glacial, required of course for the build to work, because this is what summons the ice spikes in blizzards, and you want the highest damage one you can find, and it needs to be on your amulet to 1.5 times it. This is the source of these delicious explosions of massive damage, and I just love how it looks once you really get going, and you just, you can really see why it melts everything once you've started layering. In any case, uniques then. Well, actually, no, not uniques. Disobedience on your helmet, so you know, don't die to everything. Then, Esu's Heirloom. We want more crit damage, we want more crit chance, this is perfect, and the mana cost reduction is a really helpful affix too. It's sort of made for this build. Tybalt's Will to get just nice extra damage, the extra mana is obviously great, and then the primary resource restore when we teleport, and when we flame shield is really good as well. Sadly, the teleport from our dodge, our enchant, doesn't give you the mana because it doesn't make you unstoppable, but that's not the end of the world. Just getting that big increase is really nice. It essentially turns Flame Shield and Teleport into fully restore all of your mana, because we have loads of mana generation too in the form of the resource gen affixes. Then Raiment is of course here for the pull-in, the group, the stun, and everything then gets blown up by the blizzard. It is really, really good. If you are running difficult content, so you're in the Frozen Orb variation, and you are a little bit in danger of taking significant damage, then instead you want to run a chest with Ever Living on it. Everyone will be vulnerable all of the time, so this is a huge increase to your survivability, and we don't need to constantly be grouping people, because the blizzard does have a nice area, and we'll get the job done. It's just a lot easier and more efficient when we can Raiment, so make that call depending on the content you're doing. Then we go to, of course, Tal Rasha's, our new unique. It has got perfect affixes for this. The non-physical damage is delicious, and then 4 stacks of multiplicative damage, up to 60% if you get the high roll. I mean, this almost doubles the damage of any given sorcerer build, and simply cannot be ignored. Which then brings into question the second ring. You may be noticing that I've got Blue Rose sat here. This is the Ice Spike ring, right? More Ice Spike damage, summon more Ice Spikes. Why is it not here? It's also got mana cost reduction, lucky hit chance, and critical strike damage. That's everything you need, and it is, and I wish I had 3 ring slots. But ultimately, purely, you just do way less damage with Blue Rose than you do with X-Files Corroded Signet. This also has decent affixes, the lucky hit is great, the cooldown reduction is great, but the damage it does... let's get into this then. When we have X-Files on, as you're about to see, things get a little bit ridiculous. Especially because of our lucky hit stacking. See, we have currently 80% lucky hit, nearly 90 with a barrier on, and if our helmet had lucky hit with barrier affix, which I wish that it did, we'd be approaching 100%. So how lucky hit with a damage over time works is it's divided by the time. Blizzard counts as a damage over time skill, even though, you know, it looks like it's just raining down and doing damage. It is technically, as far as the game is concerned, a dot. So we have 90% lucky hit chance, 59% lucky hit chance with Blizzard, and then 50% lucky hit chance on the effect itself, which mathed out means that every second of Blizzard, there is a nearly 10% chance for this explosion to happen. And given that this explosion is like 500 to 1.5 million damage, you kinda see why this gets silly, especially when you consider that that's just one Blizzard. When you start layering them, when you take into account the Firebolt Dot 2, you really start to see more and more X-Files explosions, and given how hard they hit, you can see why it starts to outdo Blue Rose. Especially as the Ice Spike damage here isn't multiplicative, just additive, so it's not actually that crazy, and the extra Ice Spikes that are summoned aren't too much either. So with that in mind then, let's run a little test. I'm going to put Blue Rose back on, and what we're simply going to do is cast 5 Blizzards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're just going to let it play out, have a look at the health, have a look how fast it's going down. It's certainly quite nice, and should comfortably kill it. So that was fairly quick, right? Now, if we swap to X-Files and do it again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... well, let's let that play out, and you can see just a little bit of difference in the performance. Every time X-Files happens, the dummy's health just chunks down, and that makes a big difference. Now, don't get me wrong, if you only have Blue Rose and not X-Files, then do use Blue Rose, but I'd say on average X-Files probably is about 30-40% more overall damage than Blue Rose, so that is indeed why it gets used. And that also doubles up as explaining why we have such a focus on lucky hit, to make this happen as much as it can from all of the dots that we are applying. It really does work wonders, and I think it really is, as I said, the secret to Blizzard Ice Spike success that really helps it compete with the best in the game. And indeed, if it wasn't for Ball Lightning, it would be the best in the game, so that says a lot. Right, let's actually talk affixes then that you want to go with all of this. Number 1, lucky hit chance. Then you want crit chance, then you want critical strike damage. After that, you want cooldown reduction, ranks of Devouring Blaze, ranks of Glass Cannon and defensive skills, mana cost reduction, resource generation, and then you want attack speed, damage to close, mastery damage, intelligence, just general increases like that. Also, make sure to try and get percent total armor on your helmet, because that makes a big difference to your not dyingness as well. Same with your backup hard content chest too, it's a really, really good affix. Vampiric powers are up next then, and this is where I'm quite happy with a little shift I have made that works surprisingly well. First and foremost, a more standard pairing of Accursed Touch to, well, curse everyone, and then prey on the weak to both make them vulnerable and do more vulnerable damage. These two are excellent together and really hard to say no to. Then we have Infection, just to provide us with the ability to do poison damage in order to get our 4th stack of Tal Rasha. We get 1 from both our Firebolt, Enchant, and Fire Shield. We get Shock from Teleport and Lightning Spear, Ice, of course, from the Blizzard itself, and then Poison with Tal Rashas, meaning that when everything is rolling, yeah, lovely, lovely 4 stacks. But the last 2 then are another combo. First and foremost, Call Familiar. Whenever we cast Blizzard, we will summon a bat that will do a bit of damage. The damage is whatever. The chance to stun is also kind of whatever. But the point is, it is a bat. So when we then add Feed the Coven, the Bat Familiar now has a 60% chance to give us 10 mana, which is multiplied up by our resource generation, and even more importantly, give us a essentially permanent 10% extra multiplicative damage. This is really what goes a long way to solving the mana problem of a build this mana hungry. You may notice that we don't actually have, well, Ravenous, the huge attack speed amp. Because really, all this affects is how fast we place Blizzard, which, don't get me wrong, is really good. However, it just means that we run out of mana and we don't need to place them this fast. It doesn't increase the Blizzard damage, it doesn't increase the Ice Spike damage, doesn't make more Ice Spikes, doesn't make Blizzard tick faster. It is just pure place speed. And it's essentially overkill when we can be doing something tangibly more useful. If I get rid of these 2 and put Ravenous in and actually just start going, once it procs, we will definitely notice, because we start absolutely just ridiculously gutting them down, but you see how we just run out of mana. And then there's not really anything we can do about it. We're sort of just waiting and waiting. It's not necessary. And it's not really necessary to reach max damage, because 1 Blizzard is enough to kill elites and normal enemies, even in a tier 100. And against Duriel or Lilith and bosses, you will still kill them in seconds from normal speed stacking, coupled with, you know, the little bits of attack speed you will still have from around the place. So instead, we drop that and get the, yes, combination of Call Familiar and Feed the Coven. So, this means that when we do that, you see a bat comes in, bites, which also triggers Firebolt, which is really, really nice, and in doing so, it gives us a damage increase and some mana back. It's really, really good. And to just do a little bit of a comparison, if I just spam Blizzard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I get 9 Blizzards, and this is just a single test, of course. You'd have to run a lot of time and get averages, but just a quick example. I get 9 Blizzards before I have to start either waiting for mana or getting it back with Tibalt's Will, etc. And that's against a single enemy where the Blizzards aren't actually touching the enemy, so they're not generating mana themselves via lucky hits. So then we get rid of these 2 and repeat it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yeah, you see, it's the difference of 3 Blizzards in this sort of sterile environment, and that adds up a lot over the course of a dungeon, but especially a boss where you don't have lots of enemies to trigger Lucky Hit Mana Restore against. It really is surprisingly effective, and that's why we're using it. So, all that kind of remains then is the general how do you play it. Let's get multiple dummies out and essentially use your teleports to blast through the dungeon, group everyone up with raiment, and, well, stun them. Ice armor just to keep yourself alive, keep your barrier synergies up, your flame shield is your oh no button, and then lightning spear on cooldown, keep everyone stunned. It's a defensive too, so you can save it for when things are looking a little bit ooh, and get your lightning damage stack of Tal Rashas from a distance if you don't want to teleport onto an enemy in a harder dungeon. That's why this really does come in handy, because in a T100, teleporting onto a group of elites is a little bit touch and go sometimes. Past that, you just run through and drop a blizzard on every group of enemies, and then you watch them just immediately get blown up as you reach the end of the dungeon. And then on bosses, just consistently stack them on the boss and never stop. If we go to the actual dummies then and get it going, we have ourselves a lot more sustain, as we have a lot more of our lucky hits actually able to happen, and you see our mana essentially doesn't go anywhere. So that's very, very nice. Our bats being a big source of that, and to Built's will whenever we need it to, and just, oh, look at the damage, my word. Oh, okay. With that all said, it is the Paragon tree that is left, so let's get into it. Following me point for point, we want to just get the rare node here instead of this 3 extra, because we want to save the points. We really are stretched thin for Blizzard. We need everything we can get, so I've had to be very ruthless with my optional extras. Then head to the right, get all of the non-physical damage that is available to us, and this is very specifically going to come in handy later in the tree. We have a very deliberate amount of it. In your first glyph slot, you want Elementalist. The extra 15% mini Tal Rashas is great, and amping up the non-physical and all resist is also very, very good. Then head up to our Enchantment Master board and get all of the delicious non-physical damage. It is just such a brilliant stat for us, and really we just want as much as we can get, always in essentially every build. So we do that by getting Elemental Balance, Elementalist, and Ruinous. Go up here to the middle, then split off left and just get these free. We're not getting these two because, again, we just don't have points to spare. We need every point we can get later on later boards, so this will have to do. On this side, though, we do get everything, as the extra elite damage is certainly nice to have. And then grab the all resist and the intelligence too, and in here we want reinforced to amp these nodes and give us a near permanent 15% damage reduction, which is very much needed. Up and right into our next board, which is our Burning Instinct Synergy, flaming, all of that loveliness. Head down, get Cinders and Smouldering Embers. Smouldering Embers is mainly just to get to the more decks, but it's nice to get the damage reduction and intelligence along the way, and that's to power Destruction that goes here for, well, near 200% more crit damage on your ice spikes, which have 50% crit chance, just a little bit more actually. So yeah, this is huge, and grab every bit of dex around it to power it up before going up into the middle for kindling and its surrounding magic nodes. Then we come down here, and this is your Icefall board. Go down and to the right for Frost for more damage to chilled enemies, and then over on the left the damage reduction from chilled enemies, but mainly we care about the intelligence here, because this is where your Stalagmite goes, the new glyph, and the 10% crit chance on ice spikes is what's most potent. I have not been able to level this up, as there is other more important universal glyphs that I am still working on, but the pure 10% crit chance is already worth it, even without the extra just percent ice spike damage in general. Head right and down, get the Polar Rime cluster here, and then head round and left in order to get Icefall. This will just give us a nice extra 15% multiplicative, that's sometimes 30, and that's too good to pass up before we follow it on and then get the extra cold damage here from Cryomancy and its surrounding little bits. Now we can go right to our final board, which is Frigid Fate, the vulnerable board. Have it in this orientation so that you can immediately go down and right to get more lucky hit chance. We know how important that is in this build, so this free extra 10% is very noticeable. Continue on and then get Frigid Fate, which is nicely maxed at 30% multiplicative more damage to vulnerable enemies. They're always vulnerable from our vampiric powers, so this is a colossal damage bump all of the time. And I really do mean this is very carefully balanced. You see how it's on 30%? If we get rid of this 20% cold damage, for example, it's now going to go down to 28%. And then even if we get rid of, let's say, 5% here, and then 5% here, you're going to see it drop to 29. So we really do have very specifically the needed non-physical damage to maximize Frigid Fate here. Then continue down and up to get weakness for a little bit more vulnerable damage, and then we get to the glyph slot where you put Flame Feeder. You essentially need to use this if you're using the Firebolt enchant, as it's one of the big 3 reasons to do so. Devouring Blaze, the Burning Instinct board, and the Flame Feeder glyph. Get it activated with the Dexterity by going right through these 2, and then continuing up to grab Oppressive and the surrounding magic nodes, and then take this left to Chilling just to get more dex to activate Flame Feeder. And there you have it. It is quite the specific board setup, and I wish there was points to reach for a 6 glyph, but there's just too many things you really need to get a hold of to properly maximize Blizzard Ice Spikes, and this is the best way, at the very least, that I have figured out how to do it. And there we have it then! Ice Spikes fully maximized with the new ring at level 100, everything firing on all cylinders, and just doing the absolute most ridiculous amount of damage. It is so much fun, I cannot recommend it enough, and if you ever want to try something that isn't Ball Lightning and still perform essentially as good, it is the one to choose. I will see you next time then for some more fun builds, including one that I cannot wait to debut. Like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.